Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. This series helps you prepare for the CompTIA Security Plus exam with focused explanations and practical context. For a companion study guide, check out the Achieve CompTIA Security Plus 701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. It is the most concise and complete Security Plus guide on the market, built for busy professionals who want to pass the exam fast and on their first try. You can find this book and others at cyberauthor.me. When we talk about cybersecurity attacks, we often focus on the big moment, when systems get breached, data is stolen, or malware takes hold. But long before any of that happens, attackers spend time quietly gathering information. This early phase is called reconnaissance, and it's one of the most important steps in any cyber attack. It's also one of the most overlooked areas in cybersecurity education. Understanding how reconnaissance works and how it's detected gives you a powerful advantage as a cybersecurity professional. In this episode, we explore two key approaches to reconnaissance: passive and active techniques. These methods help attackers identify targets, map systems, and prepare for more invasive actions, sometimes without ever triggering a single alarm. Let's start with passive reconnaissance. This technique involves gathering information about a target without directly interacting with its systems. That's what makes it passive. The attacker isn't sending probes or scanning ports. Instead, they're using publicly available data, things that already exist out in the open. The goal here is to stay stealthy. Because there's no direct contact with the target, passive reconnaissance is very hard to detect. It doesn't show up in firewall logs or trigger alerts on intrusion detection systems. So what kinds of things can attackers find without ever touching your network? More than you'd expect. Public domain records, archived web pages, social media profiles, job postings, public documents, DNS lookups, cached metadata. All of these sources can reveal sensitive or useful details. A company's own website might mention what technologies it uses, what systems are being upgraded, or which vendors it relies on. A LinkedIn profile might tell you what security tools an employee is trained in. An old resume might list internal project names or system types. Even a simple error message on a public-facing page might reveal the software version running behind the scenes. Imagine this. An attacker wants to target a law firm. They don't touch any of the firm's systems. Instead, they start with Google, looking for PDF files and Word documents posted on the firm's site. These documents have metadata, like usernames and software versions. The attacker uses that to identify naming conventions and see who's using outdated tools. Then they look up DNS records and find subdomains that aren't obvious from the main site. Maybe they find a test server or a forgotten staging environment. With no direct contact, they've already built a roadmap of the firm's infrastructure. Now, because passive reconnaissance is so quiet, it's hard to stop. But that doesn't mean we're helpless. Organizations can conduct open-source intelligence reviews on themselves to see what information they're unintentionally exposing. Scrubbing metadata, monitoring domain registrations, and tightening privacy settings all help reduce the passive data footprint. The more difficult it is for someone to build a picture of your organization from the outside, the safer your systems are. Now let's move on to active reconnaissance. This is where things get a lot more direct. In active reconnaissance, the attacker interacts with your systems. That means scanning ports, probing firewalls, sending packets, and collecting responses. Active reconnaissance is more aggressive, but it also gives more accurate and detailed information. The trade-off is risk, because when someone interacts with your systems, you have a chance to detect them. Active reconnaissance typically starts with something like a ping sweep or a port scan. The attacker might use a tool like Nmap to see what ports are open on a target and which services are running. They might analyze response headers, banner messages, or error codes. From there, they can start identifying operating systems, service versions, and potential vulnerabilities. If a system responds in a way that reveals too much, it becomes a high-value target. Picture a penetration testing team working for a retail company. They begin by scanning the public IP address range assigned to that company. They find several systems online. One is running an outdated web server. They then probe that system directly and learn it's vulnerable to a known exploit. Because this is an active test, the penetration testers will document their steps, report the vulnerability, and help the company fix the issue. But if this had been a real attack, the company's logs might be the only clue that someone was poking around. This is why active reconnaissance is easier to detect than passive. Network monitoring tools can watch for repeated connection attempts, scanning patterns, or unusual requests. Firewalls can rate limit traffic or block common scanning tools. And intrusion detection systems can trigger alerts when attackers start probing too aggressively. That's why many real-world attackers begin with passive reconnaissance. They want to learn as much as possible before taking any actions that might expose them. So which is better, passive or active reconnaissance? The answer is both. In real attack scenarios or in comprehensive penetration tests, these techniques are used together. An attacker might spend days or even weeks gathering passive information before ever launching a single scan. Then, once they've identified a high-probability target, they shift into active mode, testing for specific weaknesses, gathering responses, and building an attack path. Let's walk through one more scenario. A company undergoes a simulated attack from a red team. The red team starts by scanning job listings, LinkedIn profiles, and the company's press releases. They learned that the company recently launched a cloud-based analytics tool and uses a popular vendor for authentication. They then check for publicly exposed login pages and start sending slow, spread-out login attempts. Eventually, they find a misconfigured API that gives them more data than it should. All of this came from a blend of passive and active techniques, carefully orchestrated to mimic a real adversary. From a defensive perspective, the takeaway is clear. You need to protect against both types. Limit what you expose to the public. Remove sensitive data from documents before uploading them. Train employees to avoid oversharing on social media. And for active threats, monitor your logs, look for patterns, and have alerts set up for scanning behavior or abnormal connection attempts. As you prepare for the Security Plus exam, expect questions that ask you to distinguish between these two types of reconnaissance. If the scenario involves researching publicly available data, using search engines, or analyzing metadata without system contact, that's passive reconnaissance. If it involves packet crafting, or direct system interaction, that's active reconnaissance. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.